A surrogate drama gone completely wrong. My cousin is responsible for this, and you know what? If she won't have my baby for me, I'm going to sue her.
Surrogacy was never in my plans when I wanted a child at 8 years old? I played with my dolls back and forth, feeding them, giving them all the affection a $5 doll could get. Of course, my parents knew what my goal in life was going to be, but that was in matters of wishful thinking. In practical matters, they had a hard hand with me, something I can't thank them enough for. My story is not so remarkable. My family was not so well off, but they managed to take me to college, where I got the company of David, for whom I also have a lot to thank. He graduated as an engineer, and he was always from a good background. He relates easily with people and has contacts of all kinds, not knowing that this would help us a lot today. We formed our relationship right after our graduation, intending to start a family when we both considered ourselves ready. That was 3 years after our first kiss. The problem is that we wanted to do everything right. Example, going to gynecologist appointments, maternity therapy, managing budgets, because if I can brag about anything, it's that we're very careful and good at doing the math for the things around the house. Eventually, I understood that wanting a baby was not just about getting pregnant, but about being able to bring it into this world under the most comfortable conditions possible. My family has had such a strong history of unplanned pregnancies that, looking back, I would be the first to actively seek a baby, but it's not all rosy. Amid all the sessions, we discovered something quite harsh. And the worst thing happened somehow in my situation. It's almost like a bad joke. I'm infertile. Simply, my womb is too small. And although it's possible to try, there's several risks that a pregnancy could come, and it could become complicated and threaten my own life, which is not the idea. When I saw the doctor enter the office to give me the news, I saw my world fall apart, as I saw a fantasy I had all my life being destroyed and falling apart just because my body had other plans. And it's the only case in my whole family because apparently women do not have this defect in my family. Or at least the women on my mother's side, because on my father's side things are different. He never had sisters and neither did his parents, but in older records, it's known that they did not have children because the women could not. It's something that I was not told until after the exams and when tears had already flooded the whole house. Suffice to say that it hurt me a lot, but David knew how to deal with it much better than I did, spoiling me and treating me like a queen throughout that bitter period because he knew I was on my last legs. We decided not to pay any attention to the matter as we understood that there were other methods by which having a baby would not be a fantasy. And so, the time passed. More or less 5 years? I think so. 5 years in which I longed to have a baby with my life and envied anyone with a baby in their arms on the street. There was a season, more or less a whole year, where I would cry almost instantly at the sight of a pregnant woman. How embarrassing. At least until an alternative was found, which is why I came to tell my story here. I feel it's important to see all sides of the situation, and I said to myself, hey, when was the last time I saw someone in my position telling their story? Because I know that like me, there are many like that, and I don't want to keep quiet about anything. If I can help even just one person, I'll feel like it'll all be worth it. My cousin Amy. She came into the conversation from a party where we were discussing the topic with other members of the family. Someone brought up the topic of surrogacy, which was one of the thousands of options David and I had talked about. Anyways, she jumped into the conversation excitedly, saying that if it were the case, she would have no problem lending us her womb as a surrogate to have our baby. Those were big words, and we had to discuss it privately, of course, the day after the party, if she was serious or if it was just a drunk talk. The next day, she told us that she had not even had any alcohol all night. We spent a lot of time discussing it, and I admit, that they were strong conversations that could fall apart at any time, but if there was one thing that impressed me, it's Amy's willingness to help us. She's the daughter of my oldest aunt who, let's just say, is the one with the less graceful life. And we came to believe that the good treatment she would receive from us was one of the biggest motivators for her proposal. Seriously, it's a situation that hurts us, and I'm not afraid to say it here. To think that you have to sacrifice your body and your physical, mental, and emotional structure to help someone else just to have a better quality of life? Well, I want to believe that this is not so, and I don't know how much I want to believe it. I want to think that Amy is just doing this out of pure selflessness and the courage to help her cousin. But whatever the outcome, I feel like it'll be the same. I don't want this to be a story where it all concludes with my cousin having all kinds of luxuries from us, taking advantage of the preferential treatment we give her for having our baby. I feel like a terrible person saying all this, but this space is to get it all out, right? At the end of the day, I know I put a lot of spins on the situation, and in the end, it'll all be something to laugh about. Depending on how it all flows, I'll see how I show this text to the family. I'm sure we will find it hilarious. In a couple days, we will go to find out prices and procedures for the surrogacy pregnancy. It may soon be the first day to start the countdown to see me with my own son or daughter. I can't help but feel excited. I feel like I want to scream with joy. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you're having a fantastic day. So, today's story actually has a few updates, and then at the end of the story, we're going to see a perspective from a different person in the story, so this is an interesting one. If you guys are new to the channel and you want more daily videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're here every single day. And let's jump into update number 1. Indeed, I screamed with joy. A few weeks ago, we went to see the doctors doing tests and preparations to start everything because, in the end, it all came together so that Amy could be our surrogate. The whole procedure was done, and I just got back from her pregnancy testing. David's at work, and while I wait for him here at the house, I'm writing all this that's going on. There was a bitter moment between Amy and me, and that is when she saw the positive test. She burst into tears, and I'm not very good with these sort of sad moments. I swear, I usually cry even more than the person I'm trying to comfort, but this was the exception. When I saw her crying, I had to be strong and make her understand that it's not the end of the world, but that I was helping a couple in a way that no one else in the world could do. It was when, then, she said something to me that chilled me to the absolute bone, and I quote, "You know, Lisa, I feel like you're going to be a good mother." And that's when my sea of tears started. She told me that I knew how to control the situation and that I was able to calm her down to a level that only a mother could do. She felt better after our talk, and I left her at my aunt's house. We agreed to meet now and then in a couple of days as I invited her to lunch. Right now, I have to focus on work as this whole period will require a lot of financial expenses. It'll be like having a new member of the family, which we will have discussed before. When the time comes, maybe after 5 months, Amy will start staying with us to monitor the whole situation. We don't skimp on anything, and we may have to hire somebody to watch her 24/7. It may seem like we're overspending, but it's something that we had in mind when we started everything. Plus, we'd save for years to be able to do this properly. Now, we just have to wait. And it feels strange because after so many years of waiting, I feel like I'm going to explode from doing it for only 9 more months. In less than a year, I will finally have a baby in my arms. Well, I think I'm gonna cry. Call me exaggerated, but I'm already preparing for the baby shower. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's been a few months and everything's going good. Amy's been growing in size, and while health-wise everything's been great when it comes to mental health, a few things are going on. Amy has been going through some very rough times, and frankly, I don't know why. Our dynamic is that we usually have meetings every 2 or 3 days to see how everything's going. We buy her nutritious food, follow the diets given to us by the doctors, to the absolute T. We go for checkups every month, and it seems like we're a little upset about it. But nothing could be further from the truth. We just worry that Amy can have a good experience with all this that we're going through. Still, she looks crestfallen, and I'm writing this after at least a full week in which I have not even seen her smile once. Not even once! She just spends her time on her phone, sending messages and videos, and I don't know to whom, but it drains a lot of her energy. It's a hard thing for us to digest because we feel that something is wrong with her. Something she won't tell us. And I don't want to be so blunt to ask her. Because, well, we know that pregnant women tend to be hypersensitive to anything. But there's one thing that keeps me hopeful, and that is the baby shower we planned for her. Just to be clear, this pregnancy of hers, that is, the surrogacy thing that has been out of the public eye. As such, not many people know how Amy got pregnant. She just started growing a belly and that's it, but we're planning a party to cheer her up. In a sense, it would be a celebration too, only we'd be in the shadows enjoying it all the same. I'm planning it with my aunt and my mother. David is equally excited, and I spend sleepless nights with him talking about what our life would be like now that we would have a child. We talked about the possibility of having another one in the future as well. Although, we thought maybe adoption might be an equally viable option and might suit us in other ways. It won't be a big thing, if anything, about 50 guests, mostly family. I'm getting a slight inkling, and that's Amy feels bad as keeping this whole thing under wraps. So, I'll talk to David to see if disclosure can be made at the baby shower. It's a delicate thing, I know, but one way or the other, Amy is still family, and I'm concerned about her well-being behind everything that's going on. I'll write again when the celebration is over. Update number 3. I don't even know where to start. Things have gotten so out of control. This is possibly one of the strongest situations I have ever had to go through in my life, and I just feel so betrayed. It's not for nothing, and it was all because of the dang baby shower. The one I prepared with so much love and dedication from my cousin. I understand that she was going to make a tremendous sacrifice by giving up her baby, even though in theory it's, well, my baby. But lying about it is something that already involves contracts and legal means that are hard to evade, but I feel I have all of you adrift. I'll lay out what happened that day. Everything had started relatively well. We had arranged everything at a friend's house, not to arouse suspicion. We had brought Amy's favorite foods just to make her feel more at ease. Chicken skewers along with banana muffins, as they have been her favorites since she was a baby. And with minimal decoration so as not to impress her so much. When they took her on site and we shouted out the surprise, she gets excited and within a second she was tearing up without even realizing it. Although it seemed like she'd already been crying before we walked in the door. And she wasn't the only one. She and I were the only ones crying, and I swear our particular hug felt quite different from the rest as, well, we understood that we were complicit in everything that was happening that day. We played some games and some, well, basic gift giving. We'd asked those presents not to give large gifts, and we didn't want to startle Amy. Besides, it would be bitter on psychological level to see her get all of that and then see that she would not be able to enjoy it. We had talked about how once the baby was born, we would let Amy visit us whenever she wants. Furthermore, once she came of age, our son or daughter would be told the truth about the origin of the birth, hoping that she would have the mental fortitude to understand and handle it. However, part of me feared that the baby might inherit some of Amy's apathy, as it was so pronounced during this period of pregnancy. Of course, there were minimal possibilities since we were the parents, but I still felt that the baby would inherit 1 or 2 qualities from the womb that would host it. I have nothing to worry about now, though, because of what happened next. There was a point where she sat in the chair next to the food table and did not move from there for the rest of the evening, not even when my aunt or others tried to pull her out to talk or socialize. She even bounced me when I offered to have a conversation about whether something was going on with her or not. It was then that I told her about the option of disclosing the surrogacy issue, but she preferred to keep everything behind closed scenes. Well, you could say things took a turn when at one point I saw that she was with one of her sisters who was confronting her because she was crying. I did not understand what was going on, but, wow, though the worst. It was then Amy stood up and began to speak. "I have a confession to make." And I thought about her revealing the truth to everybody, so I decided to go to her side, only she looked at me with more sadness than anybody else, and I did not understand why. "A confession for everyone. This pregnancy was not planned at any time," well, she said, rendering everybody mute, and then left the place, with her sister behind her, but without us approaching. That struck me as odd, and it wasn't until half an hour later that we could figure out what was going on. David, my aunt, and I went into the room, where Amy had the reddest of eyes I'd ever seen in my life, and she kept repeating, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," without us understanding why. Her sister asked us to sit down and talk and reapproached Amy that she had been honest from the beginning. For some reason, David and I freaked out and squeezed our hands together as if we were in labor. Well, I have to be honest with you guys. There was a hiccup with the baby. The baby I'm carrying in me does not belong to you. They say I got a little snooty, and I answer her ugly by saying this. "What do you mean? Of course it's ours. What are you saying, with all the trappings out of the law?" She explained that the insemination treatment did not work at all, discussing it with the doctor at the time without telling us anything, and something I think must be against the contract we've made. The doctor maintained professional secrecy but warned her that she should discuss it with us. This is the moment Amy panicked, so she did something very stupid. In her words, which are not that far off the mark. Let's see, I'll explain something about Amy. Everyone in my family has things that categorize us. My cousin Miriam is known for only dating Europeans who break her heart. My cousin Aaron, he's the musician of the family. Even I am known as the one who made it big, for having a good life after college. Unfortunately for Amy, she's known for one particular little word. Kevin. You see, Kevin's a jerk she's been dating for years in a break-up-and-go relationship. The guy is a jerk right off the bat, who's even been to jail. They got together in high school and have been a part of each other's life, here and there, unfortunately. One time, the guy came to David asking him for a job, but in a very, very, very rude way that generated an argument in the family, and oddly enough, they broke up. But mind you, they came back a couple more times after that. They had not been seeing each other for about a year, and it was one of the things that made me realize that Amy was now someone I could not trust enough for this. But now I see that it was a mistake. When Amy found out that the insemination did not work, she heard that the process would have been repeated and that it would cost more money, so she panicked. She called Kevin and explained the situation, and I won't give you too many gross details because they aren't that pretty, so I'll just limit myself to say that they produced a baby that would later be given to us as ours. Let's see. That may seem like a noble action to some, but to me, it's a violation of our agreement, and I don't see it as fair even to her, as she'd be giving up a baby of her own. Needless to say, I did not take it well in any way. As the conversation progressed, things got worse and worse, and to top it off, her sister and mother entered the conflict and I started fighting with them. I was telling them that they were going to give me a fake child, which in retrospect was not quite the right thing to say, and that we had also done everything to make Amy feel comfortable during the whole process, including the fact that she could stay with us at our own house after the party. According to David, the whole thing nearly escalated into a physical fight, And I'm sorry to not give the details, but it's just that my mind shut down, and it went into autopilot during the scuffle, so even I don't really know what happened. Then, I saw myself crying at home. Not sure why, with David calming me down. My first thought was to unload all my thoughts in this that I'm writing, but first I had to calm down a bit. The anger continues, of course, but now I have to breathe and know what my next course of action will be. Due to legal issues, Amy will no longer be able to be helped as the baby she's bringing into this world is not related to us. What hurts the most has been all the money invested in this. I know it's all about the motherly love and so on and so forth, and I don't even want to see it as a selfish whim or an investment. I just keep thinking it's the right thing to do. As much as it hurts, we'll have to talk to my lawyers because I don't plan on this staying that way. Amy may be my family and all, but this goes way beyond that. We're talking about my life dream, you know. I'll talk to David because the lawyers will have to intercede for us. Update number 4. This story, unfortunately, has a bitter ending for some. And I feel like I don't enjoy this victory as much, even though I'm more in love with my little boy every day. In the end, it was advocated for me to be able to have my baby, and Amy had to be talked into giving up the only one that she was conceiving. It was something more or less like an adoption, but with various trade-offs in between. The clause stipulated that for the infringement of agreements, the violating party had to generate economic compensation to solve the perjuries caused. Yeah, very technical, I know. But there was one factor we did not even count on, and it's quite beneficial. Kevin's idiot. When he was summoned to a formal meeting, apart from the fact that the idiot appeared with a Hawaiian t-shirt on, he also blurted out that he wanted to keep the baby because it was his on a biochemical level. According to his words, and he kept repeating it over and over. But this took its toll on him because in that case, he should be held responsible for having had part in the breach of contract for having helped Amy do this. It all ended up with us adopting Amy's baby, who in herself had no way of being able to keep it. But not only that, she and Kevin would now have to give us some compensation, at least 9 months of child support for everything we spent on her pregnancy during the time we believed her lies. And the worst part is that we even helped her at the end of the pregnancy, knowing that she would eventually have to compensate us. Kevin took a heavy share because he flatly refused compensation and kept retorting that he would not give a single penny. Now, he's being subpoenaed to do so by force of this, or he's going to lose his job. This has had mixed reactions in the family. Neither my aunt nor Amy's sister will even talk to us, but it's just what we have to do to be fair for all the things that happened between us. We're talking about someone's lifelong dreams, and for one mistake, I deserve to lose everything I've ever tried to produce for it? I don't think so. What's up, everybody? So that was the end of the story, Mr. Reddito here. However, I found Amy's point of view. That's right, we finally get to see the perspective from Amy. And oh boy, grab your favorite beverage, kick your feet up in the air, cause this is a wild ride. When my cousin Lisa told me months ago to help her have a baby, I did not hesitate for a second. Well, maybe. She wasn't the one who explicitly told me to help her. It all stemmed from a conversation at a party. My cousin has had things on a silver platter for years now, but if there's one thing I can't quite come to terms with, it's the fact that she still does not have a baby. She said all her life since she was a little girl that she wants a baby and would do anything to have one. Well, that was common knowledge in the family, and to see her, now I understand that she cannot have one. It broke my soul into 1,000 pieces, I'll be honest with you. That was part of the reason why I volunteered. I already knew all about the being a surrogate would entail. I know from some documentaries I saw a while back that I was enamored with the whole selfless act of the brave woman who gave their bodies for it. I did not plan on having a baby in the future because of things I'll explain later, but I admit that I was tempted to do so I would not miss out on the experience. Like life bringing a life into the world, but not watching over that life. Besides, I felt I was doing the right thing, you know. My side of the family's small, but we still suffer a lot from money issues, which my cousin does not. Being a surrogate would be a financial help to me, which I would use to help others, or at least make them not worry about another member. My intentions were not evil from the beginning, I promise. I just planned to follow through with what the stipulations in the contract were. Because yes, there were contracts. Paper after paper after paper, where it was made clear that the child I would be fostering would be given to another family. At one point, I felt used like a pregnant jerk who could be discarded at any moment. But they, my sister and her husband David, would not let that happen. During those brief moments of intimacy, they kept telling me not to feel bad, because what I was doing was quite noble. Something no one else in the world would be willing to do. They even told me that it was a female. They would name it after me, only I immediately refused that. The contracts also stipulated that, as it was believed, that this would create a bond between me and the baby. All of this was settled before the testing began, when I tested quite positive during the checkups. However, things took a turn during insemination. A period where I had a long moment with the doctors all alone. And it was precisely the moment when Lisa and David did not accompany me to an important session. That day it was my sister. That's the day something bad happened. I was told that the insemination did not work and that my body rejected the process. I asked why, but the answer left me little upset. Apparently, I was already pregnant. Let's just say I was a little reckless. And that is that a few days earlier, I had an encounter with my ex-boyfriend, Kevin. Kevin and I had a complicated relationship. We love each other, yes, but sometimes it's hard to be with each other without fighting. Anyways, a few days ago we saw each other again, and what had to happen happened. I admit my mistake to you because it meant lying in the diagnostic interviews, but I got desperate because of all the money that had been spent so far, and I didn't want to let them down or worse, get sued or something. In the end, they wanted a baby, so I decided to, quote, alter reality a bit. Would you guys have said the same thing? That's what I ask. And so, the whole process began, with Lisa and David adopting me and monitoring my condition to see if everything was okay. And while that was the case, inside my mind it was a different story. I was afraid that this baby was not going to look like his adoptive parents, and little by little there was this idea that everything could very easily go wrong. And let me tell you, pregnant humor is the worst thing ever. It's like being super menstruated. You're just very sensitive about everything, and you tend to get much, much more depressed. Plus, I was having to deal with the idea that this baby, my baby, would become somebody else's immediately. And all because of an innocent little mistake that I made. Although, I understand if they say it wasn't so innocent. I always had the idea of forming a family with Kevin, of having a child and being happy, but given the circumstances, it was something very complicated indeed. So, I used this opportunity to fulfill even a small part of the fantasy, but, as I say, it did not work out at all. Kevin is a volatile person. So, he would not accept someone else having his child, I promise you that. He used a term too far out of context, biochemical, which only made it clear that he wasn't treating a person with the best ability to raise another human being. And that's when contract season arrived. Papers here, papers there, papers everywhere. David, my cousin's husband, has a very good contacts. And they paid the best lawyers so they could take the case with reservation, to the point of giving us the verdict we feared most. We would have to compensate them for everything they spent on my pregnancy as compensation for the supposed scam we pulled on them. Of course, that word was never used between us, but the lawyers used it a lot when mediating the situation. Currently, I can see I guess I should say their baby, although I've preferred not to. It was left in a clause that they're legally obligated to tell their son the truth when he's older, as originally agreed upon. I must admit that this situation has torn me apart and Kevin is not having a better time. I've decided to stop seeing him and start walking a little more on my own. I'd like to believe that the future will look brighter. Well, hopefully.
So in this story, I'm glad that we were able to see a different point of view, and in this one it was Amy's, who was the surrogate. However, all the comments were saying the worst person in this story, hands down, was Kevin. He was toxic, manipulative, and, well, he was just a bad person. So, I want to ask you guys, do you agree with that? If you do, drop your comment down below, and if you don't, tell me why. Guys, if you want more daily videos, I post every single day, so make sure you subscribe for daily videos. Animated, narrated, you name it, we cover mother-in-law stories, drama stories at a wedding, bridezillas, Karens in public, am I the a-holes, I could go on and on. Smash that like button too if you enjoyed it, guys. Have an amazing day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.